What is going on, everybody? And in this video, we are providing you a state of the market and stock picks for April 19th, 2022. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, consider subscribing, as I do provide weekly and daily updates to keep you ahead of the schedule on upcoming events, earnings, and or technical analysis that I believe could help you out for the next day and week to come. So let's get right into the state in the market. There was only some specific things that I am looking for. And I stated this in the weekly update. We do have the beige book coming out on Wednesday. I believe that will have some weight. Ultimately, right now, we are more waiting for action that is being taken by the Fed, in my opinion. And primarily on the bond buying. I think everything else, I think we'll get a lot of volatility. We do have a lot of Fed members talking. We do have Powell later this week. Again, I think that will introduce more volatility to the market, but ultimately, I think right now the market is really waiting on action to see what is going to happen. And on top of everything, we are right dead smack in earnings. And earnings kind of snuck up on me as far as big tech. I thought we would have had one more week or possibly 2 more weeks before we really got into some big earnings. But we came in pretty strong with Tesla this week. They moved up their dates. So it'll be interesting to see. That will primarily, I think, drive all of what is going to happen throughout the rest of earnings, because they have overcome a tremendous amount throughout the pandemic. And we are starting to see a little bit more of an impact on that, on delivery numbers, considering sanctions and lockdowns that are going on. So if they do poorly, I think we're going to see a lot of other earnings do extremely poor. The one thing I'm not really concerned about is possibly even Google, considering their ads, how well they could still possibly potentially come out ahead. But ultimately, if the whole market sentiment is down because of sanctions and everything else, we'll see what happens. So we've gotten kind of a mixed review from the banks, some good, some bad. So that can be pretty normal, especially given what the circumstances. So nothing was so horribly bad. The bank just collapsed upon it, or the market just collapsed upon itself. So tomorrow will be interesting. Now, if you look at the SPY technical wise, we got the first retest of the 20 EMA daily. We actually had a clean break and retest. I did short this from there, and then we bounced. It's the first actual official test of the 50 EMA on the weekly. Something I've always said, once we test that 50 EMA weekly, typically we'll get a nice bounce back up to the 20 EMA weekly, which I don't know why this one is actually set to weekly here. So we could get a clean bounce back up to the 44.67 mark. Again, we have this top channel is what I'm really watching coming into the earnings this week. If we do get any gas to the upside, I'm looking to get rejected there. If that's the case, we could potentially start selling off even more. Like I said, we can drop down to the 42.50 and still be very bullish, in my opinion, which could potentially happen with the way things are lining up. Again, I don't think any of the news that's going to come out is going to be new. We know there's going to be double rate hikes in the next couple of meetings, more than likely. But again, we have to see. We are waiting on Fed action, actual action. The talking will give volatility, but the market's becoming kind of numb to that as well. And again, you're still seeing a lot of strength in these bounces. These bounces have been pretty strong. Selling, not so much. Selling's been pretty slow for the most part. We do get a lot of selling towards the end of the day, just because people don't want to hold. But ultimately, I think people are just kind of waiting for that reversal. And if you push out a little bit more, I mean, you're still going for a higher low here, possible, very much possible. So I think, again, we can still retag down here. Essentially, that 4,300 mark could be, again, a strong possibility, and then finally break out of this channel. It's kind of what I'm looking for. Now, again, going forward, it's really going to matter on earnings. We do have a Netflix first as far as big tech goes. One thing I did take a look at as well is the savings rate, because typically savings rate will tell you on if people are spending. And it's back down even below pre-pandemic levels. So that's pretty interesting. People are spending a lot, although a lot of people are trying to do investments as far as the stock buying and everything else to alleviate or to combat inflation. So we got a lot of smaller things going on. Bitcoin had a big play today. It came right back out to hit that zone, that 37, essentially that 37. It hit the top of that zone and it popped straight out. Get a retest here, possibly at the 43, and then potentially a rattle around here. Again, there's a lot of consolidation, something we've been talking about for months now. It's just eventually we're going to start ripping up here. But it's really interesting to watch and see what happens. We do have a witch here. We do have kind of an upward channel here going on. We could potentially even draw this top channel out. So kind of a microphone type movement going on here on Bitcoin could potentially play out. So your next high could be over 50 potentially. So that's something we do want to watch on Bitcoin. Again, I think Bitcoin is going to be a big inflation hedge going forward, just on the way everything is currently playing out. But then for stock picks tomorrow, playing the same ones as I do always. I think in something I even stated in my weekly update is that I'm really looking at industry leaders in chips this week, especially with big tech earnings. Tesla, I'm looking for the big movers, and I showed that in the weekly update as well. The potential big plays there are expected moves. That's kind of what I play and why I like playing the big beta stocks, because of the fact that they have bigger expected moves throughout the week. You can play a little bit further out the money when you come to options, and you're not really risking it because you know that move is expected throughout the week. Yes, they do try to price that in, but normally things gas so quick that you do get bigger, higher percentage moves during the week. So I try to stick with those. But right now, everything is winding tight. The SPX is winding really tight. So I'm thinking that more than likely what's going to happen here is a market might be really waiting on Tesla to see how they do and then take it from that point. Now, Tesla has been basing here and consolidating here for quite a bit. So it's playing this range between 963 and roughly around that 1023. So watching this closely, because I think if it does break either way, I think we get a massive push up, or we can continue selling off. Again, Tesla made this massive move up. I think this was essentially the pre-earnings run right here. Now, it'll be interesting to see where it goes. I think if the market could start pushing up, if they do well, I think that states a lot, especially if there's a lot of sanctions and lockdowns that are going on. And people are kind of curious to see how that is going to play out. This thing could potentially run back up, at least try to revisit the 1100 mark. I think is potentially at least that. But you never know. Again, they could do bad, and then I think that's just going to cascade into all the other earnings and continue to bring the market back a little bit further going into the FOMC meeting. So being said, that's what I'm watching tomorrow. Google is another, like I said, big one. It is holding support. Again, I said that 2,500 is still good support. I did miss the pop out of this. Is it going to continue to grind on this? This is earnings is next week. So next Monday, is that right? Or the 26th? It's on the 26th, never mind. So it's next Tuesday. So really watching Google here to see what it does. If the market does decide to turn, again, I think this one could pop easily back up. But we did have we're gonna have that strong resistance at that, essentially that 26. So like at that psychological level, if we can break that, we can start heading on our way back up. Again, we're back at that lower level. So typically with these, you can get a nice move at least back up to that first strong resistance. And then again, you'll get rejected pretty hard, and then you'll try to attempt to get that break at that point. So watching Google. Melee is one I've been watching. I missed the short on this. I really wanted to catch the short on this. Even going into tomorrow, I think if we got a break. So now I'm kind of looking for a retest. It didn't quite get back up to that the 1100 mark. It's kind of what I'm looking at. If we can get back up there, I think it'd be good for a short, possibly. Again, it really depends on market sentiment, but one I do want to watch going into tomorrow. You do have Amazon, which I'm not a huge fan of right now. It's consolidating a lot, and you'll be getting a lot of wicks on this. Unless you come back down that 3K mark or you're up at the 3100 mark, I'm really not messing with Amazon in these zones. It is playing a pretty tight range here. You could even play, you could have played this range here at the 3016 mark up to the 3074 mark. This is why, again, I like playing big beta stocks, because you get these bigger moves, which you don't typically see in a lot of stocks. And I think another big thing to be watching is chips, and how they do is going to be extremely important. If these chips start missing, ASML being one of them this week, if they start really missing, you're going to get sympathy plays on AMD and NVIDIA. But again, they've been holding. Even today, I missed this move this morning. It's held that 595 mark, essentially played up to that 615 mark. So again, watching this to see if it does come back down to the zone, and if it holds, you got a stronger support down here. So I've been kind of waiting for that 580, but it just hasn't broken down that low. So watching for the retest. It's been rejected twice. So if we do get back up to this level, it could potentially break. If not, 3 times the charm, and we might actually start selling off more. So I think we're kind of at that point where the market wants to know if they do bad, it'll break down. I don't really see us breaking down too much, but if we do break up, we could go quite parabolic from this point. Either way, out of this range, we're going to have a big move, but I think earnings is definitely going to play a bigger part in that. Aside from what the Fed does, I think a lot of people are expecting the Fed to really change the market dynamic, which they can, I think, temporarily, but ultimately, I think to continue for us to propel to possible all-time highs, what we really need to see is that these big techs, these big corporations are doing well. So I think that's what I would be placing my money on. And again, not financial advice, but that's what I am aiming for. And then anything else going into tomorrow? I mean, you could go, Cat had a big day, but it had a second day and then kind of died out. I think big tech is going to take it over this week. So I'm focusing primarily on big tech and chips. Ultimately, from that point, I don't think you should focus on too much more. A lot of the other things been dying off, and I've been playing a lot of the index SPX as well. It does play lines very well, support and resistance, and supply and demand very well. So being said, if you made it this far, I appreciate you. This video is short, and I try to keep it that way when you don't need excess information at a time when the market is waiting. And when we get answers, then we take on positions, and then we make moves. So I will see you guys later.